Okay, so everyone, so today's topic will be understanding the PHP attributes for Drupal plugins. So these attributes are not something that we are using for HTML, like IDs attribute or classes attribute or any additional data attributes that we are applying. But this is attribute which is more connected with PHP and talking about in Drupal context, it is more of a plugins part. And in even in plugin as well, it's currently under development. So in further evolution, we'll get some more plugins to be available as an attribute. So going forward, so in this session, we'll cover what are the annotations. Generally, we all have gone through some time with annotations, but still we'll give a brief overview about the annotations. Then we'll go with what are the attributes in PHP and how we can use these attributes in Drupal. And after that, we'll see some of the benefits of attributes. And last but not the least, we'll go with the demo, how attributes work in Drupal. So what are the annotations? So while creating a custom block or a custom any sort of plugin in Drupal, that plugin could be a field, that plugin could be a field format, or it could be a field widget, or it could be a view as well, right? A view in view as well, we can create some plugins like a field plugin or a row plugin or pager plugin, right? So while creating any of the plugins in the Drupal, at the very top of the class, before starting our class, we are doing some annotations. Those annotations are basically in terms of comments, right? So in Drupal plugins, uh, we are defining this uh, sort of comments. It's very much similar to doc block. It's starting with that direct, and there we are defining some properties, some metadata of that plugin, right? So those are called annotation. So what is the benefit of using annotation? So annotation will, uh, during the parsing of this Drupal script, annotation will allow these classes to be registered as a plugin in the Drupal. And we will be providing additional metadata like what is the ID, what is the admin label, is there any translatable markup available for this plugin? Those kind of information we will be passing along with these annotations, right? What are the different plugins which supports annotation, right? So blocks are the plugins, fill formatter, fill widget, this view plugins. View contains all this different. It could be a field, it could be a pager, it could be a row style, right? It could be a sorting, it could be a caching or the argument, the expose filters. Those are the different plugins available for views. And additionally, we have this migrate plugins, which is basically your source plugin, your process plugin, and your destination plugins. So all these are plugins in the Drupal, and all these plugins are using annotations at the very top of our class declaration. Yeah. So here's the syntax how to define these annotations. So annotation will be starting with @ prefix and then your metadata, whatever metadata, it will be depending on your plugin type, whether you are using any action plugin or you are using any block plugin, right? So based on that, this annotations metadata will vary. So here is the syntax of how the annotations will be defined. To annotate a class as a plugin, add code similar to the following to the end of the documentation block, immediately preceding the class declaration. So this is all we are doing since Drupal 8 launch. Before Drupal 8, we do not have any annotations in the Drupal, but generally we are following this pattern only for defining any block or any other sort of plugin. By this, there is a need of changing this approach and what are the attributes. So attributes are more or less acting as a same thing which annotations does. It is attributes are the again small metadata element which can be added to classes, functions, any properties of your classes, any methods, even a variable and constants are also be defined with attributes. Okay. But in case of annotations, all these different elements of PHP are not supported with annotation. So attributes have additional benefit of doing that. Okay. And along with that, this is a very much similar to annotation, but uh, the main benefit of using attribute is it is executing during compile time, not on the runtime. We'll see in the next slide what is the benefit, how to define your attributes in place of annotations. So this is the syntax, how we can use attributes instead of annotations. In annotation, we are starting with at the rate, but here in case of attributes, we should use hash and with starting of square. Okay, so here are the couple of patterns that we need to follow in order to define our attributes. So always place the attributes after doc block commit. So with any PHP class files, we are using the doc block command at the very beginning. So right after that doc block command, start your attribute definition. And the next thing to take care about defining this attribute is leave no space before and after this static will start with hash and the square bracket, and there should no additional space between your attribute and this square bracket. And same goes for ending square bracket as well. There should not additional space after your ending statement. Okay, and along with that, we can pass additional parameters to our block definition, block attribute definition. But for Drupal, it is not having that much level of that support, because for now in Drupal, it's only supported to block only. It's not available for any other plugins. So here you can see how annotations can be defined and what can we do in order to use attributes. So as you can see here, we have at that action as an annotation, and for this annotation we have these three parameters, three metadata available, which defines the ID of our plugin, the admin label for our plugin, and a deriver class from where this action is derived. Okay, and here you can see that for at translation we are directly using at translation without using any translation related class, right? But in case of attributes, you see here, we are using the class of translatable markup here. So anything which we required in our attribute, that we need to use it first. And similar to the classes we are utilizing in our custom, either it could be a controller or its service, we are utilizing using use keyword. So similar to that, we need to use that class, and then we can define that here. And similarly, here we have provided the entire namespace for deriver. But instead of that, in attribute, we need to use that deriver class, and then it can be directly called using scope resolution. So hope this is clear. And yeah, this is another example of using annotation versus attribute, but this is not related to level of class. It is at the level of function. So this is not part of very much. We can say that it's used in Drupal because as of now, just block is supported for annotate this attributes. So, but here is an example how this route can be used for a class, for a function. And instead of we need to use the hashtag and the opening brace. And after that, we need to use the route attribute. So now talking about the benefits of attribute, PHP language. It is a library. A library is basically this Docker annotation. So whenever we are installing Drupal, this will be downloaded automatically through your composer, and all the annotations will be parsed through this library. So as these annotations are not part of PHP language, so it will be executed during runtime. So it will take some additional time to execute your script and to register your plugins into the registry system. So annotations are interpreted at runtime. The extra parsing step adds overhead which impact the performance, right? And while in case of attributes, it is now a part of PHP language, so that will be executed during compilation only. So while your other functions, other classes are compiling, at that time only your attributes will get compiled and it will register your plugin. So no additional processing time will be taken in case of attributes. Okay. So next is since annotations are bit of egg on the top of PHP doc. So annotation can be defined just right after your doc block command, right? So that can be uh, confusing when we have additional @ and some comments along with your annotations. So for example, if we have this as a annotation, right? But right after completion of your annotation, if I have to add some additional comments here using some @ keyword, that will mislead the interpreter, the compiler, and it might get failed and confused during the execution of your PHP script. So in case of attribute, there is no chances of that misleading the interpreter of by adding this @ because we are not using any @ sign for defining our attributes. And yeah, so the same thing, attributes may resolve to its class name. So again, when we are defining this attributes, right, we have to define the class first and then it can be used further. Attributes can be namespaced. Attribute class name must be inputted with use statement, which we have already seen there. We have to use any of, for example, we have used the section attribute. So before that, we need to use that as a use statement. And namespacing, like the annotation cannot be namespace. It has to be added in your code only. For example, we have multiple classes to be utilized here, and it could be possible that two libraries have the same class name. And if we wanted to use that, it can be misleading. But in case of using the it with use statement, we can provide an alias, and then that alias can be used in our uh, uh, attribute section. So I'll show you that example as well, how we can alias in a class, and that can be used in our attribute. So as you can see here, we have used this language block as a deriver, but the current class name of is of the same keyword. So what we have done is with use keyword, we have created an alias for the existing derivative language block as this one, and then this alias can be used further wherever it is required in the attribute section. Coming back to a demo, first I'll show how this will differ from Drupal 9 and Drupal 10, because since Drupal 9 and early Drupal 10 we are using annotation, but after 10.2 the Drupal core itself will have attributes while declaring the block. So as you can see in my screen, right? So I have created two different blocks. One is of using the annotation type, and one is of using the attributes type. So there is no major difference in terms of the functionality, but it's only that now PHP 8.2 has its own set of functionality for attributes, and Drupal has already adopted the utilizing the attributes for our custom blocks. So whenever we are creating any custom blocks for Drupal 10, the current version onwards, we should go with the attributes approach only, because at later stage, this annotations can be deprecated and we need to rework the custom blocks which we have created. So instead of doing the rework for future, we'll start to have a practice of creating a blocks using attributes. If I go to structure and block layout and say, for example, I'm going to place a block. I have created those two blocks, TECHX block and TECHX block attributes. So if I filter out here with TECHX, I can see two of the blocks out there, right? So there will be the same set of functionality which we can see in the admin panel, like the ID, the admin category, label, and all. But just for avoiding the rework, we'll go with attributes approach only. So I have already placed those two blocks here. You can see here, both the blocks are acting as the same. Nothing gets different between the annotations and attributes. It's just a way of improving the styling the code. Yeah. So one more thing I wanted to show you here is if we check any of this core modules now, so we see all these blocks are created using attributes method only. So this is a core module of layout builder, and for layout builder block as well, they have used this one attribute method. If we check any other core modules as well, we will see that all these blocks are created using attributes method only. We saw that there is no difference in terms of functionality or any other logic which you are adding in your custom block. It's just that standardizing the way of defining your annotations versus attribute, how to play with, how to create a custom block from now onwards. And talking about the drawbacks, right? So this is still in development stage for Drupal. So there are some of the IDs, for example, VS Code itself will not properly understand what is written in your file, because it is still in development. In future stage we will have a proper extension which will interpret it properly for your IDs. And for Drupal as well, it's supported only for block right now, but in future for all the different plugins like views or this migration plugins, or for example field plugins, right? So these attributes will replace the annotation. Yeah, so that's all for today's session. Any questions from anyone?
Hi guys, thank you for watching. I had an amazing time learning all the new things here at Specbee's TechX. And if you did too, do let us know in the comments below. Keep following Specbee for the latest trends in technology. See you in the next one.